Welcome back to Football Daily, where this week we've got Patrick.
How you doing, mate? You alright?
Good, thank you. Joe.
How you going?
Good to have those two talking about the 5 talking points of the weekend. First up, Barcelona El Clasico, or the El Clasico, as some people call it in England, not knowing what El means.
Match.
Yeah.
It's a rough translation.
Or the classic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's literal.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very classic one for Real Madrid, was it?
Well, it was a classic one for Barcelona, though.
Yes.
And even Lewis was saying post-game, he was saying that was one that will go down in the history books.
Yeah, I think Real Madrid were as poor as Barca were good. To be fair to
Like a massive seesaw.
Yeah, not to take anything away from Barcelona because they were fantastic, but I think Benitez got it all sorts of wrong.
Do you think it's just?
I don't think it was him. There was a lot of talk before the game, wasn't there, that Perez had put a lot of pressure on him to field attacking players, and there was talk in the week that Ronaldo had come to him and said we need to play more attacking football, and then you saw Isco in the lineup and you thought, Jesus, this is attacking against the Barcelona team.
How do you think that meeting went?
I think Ronaldo went, look, you either play it or me and Perez get rid of you. That's your choice.
Do you at all see? I mean, maybe we'll get into this in a second. Maybe we'll cover the match. But do you at all think Rafa's a bit of a fall guy here at Madrid?
Well, there's always an existential problem, isn't it, for any Real Madrid manager, isn't it? Just how much authority you have. Do you know what I mean? That's divided between the star players, the president himself, and the manager. So there's always a sort of a proportional balance about who's really in charge, and there's always a battle to see who's the most in charge out of those three
Not
players.
with Carlo. Carlo, it was almost like an implicit. Well, you're Carlo Ancelotti. We respect you.
Yes, but we didn't have the respect beyond if he didn't win a title, if he didn't win anything this season, he's out. Do you know what I mean? So
But the players still wanted him to stay.
The players, they had the player power, but he certainly didn't have the power over the president. Who ultimately sacked him.
Is that part of the problem, though? Is
This
that
is what
actually well, good? But is that what is that's? I mean, the hankies are out. People are calling for Perez to get sacked. Apparently, they just played the music louder.
Well, there was a lot of fans I saw in the stadium that would seem to be cheering for Perez out more than Benitez out. I think that says all you need to know about the situation there. I think
it was a very weird defence, wasn't it? Real Madrid, they were kind of all over it, really, and as we were saying earlier, very untypically Benitez.
A very unstructured side.
Yeah,
normally they're so well structured. The midfield seemed to have
non-existent. It was literally non-existent at times. There was so much space in between the lines. I think when you drop Casemiro for Isco and push Isco further forward, you're going to have a hole in there.
Well,
and
that was it.
That was such
politics?
big pressure, isn't it? It's
Like
just such politics.
Yeah.
Saying you need to play Isco.
But the point would be actually that he still played. I mean, the frustrating side is we're doing this analysis and saying, Casemiro wasn't in there and therefore the midfield didn't have as much structure. Modric and Kroos are still two very good players who are great readers of the game, and I don't quite understand why they're not doing more of a job. I mean,
Protecting the defenders, you mean?
Whether you're protecting the defenders or whether you're taking the ball forward in a more effective way, they're still not good enough from any of the players forward of the goalkeeper.
They looked utterly overrun, though, didn't they?
Yeah,
I mean, the amount of chances Barcelona had and how they could play the football in their own area and all that sort of stuff.
I mean,
in the Real Madrid area.
Kroos has been off form, I think, this season. Hasn't been particularly fantastic, not his usual self. And when you come up against Rakitic, Iniesta and Busquets as a midfield three, and you've got Isco, Modric and Kroos, I think there's big problems when the three Madrid players push forward. Busquets is so good, he can wrap two of them up. Yeah. And then you've got a real problem of Kroos versus Iniesta and Rakitic on the back foot, and he's not brilliant defensively. The
point was made on a podcast I was on last night that actually Jose started his time at Real Madrid with huge losses to Barcelona and still went on to do something effective there in his time, and actually used that as a political tool to say, well, you guys want us to play attacking football, we've tried it, and look what happened.
Yes.
And effectively, people don't paint Rafa in the same intelligent light as to be able to do that. But it certainly would make sense that they then went back to a more conservative style of football, right?
It certainly feels like it's ground zero for him. I mean, it can't get any worse. But the question is he going to get more than a year? You don't get that sort of time.
You'd hope that he would. I mean, because
that was my point earlier on. You don't get that time at Real Madrid.
You do if Perez is gone.
I don't think Perez has sacked a manager mid-season for a very long time now.
But I was just saying, will he get beyond one season to restructure the team?
He should get more than one season to restructure the team if they're doing it right. Because look, what other options do Real Madrid have in Europe right now who are long-term managers?
Yeah, I agree with you. I just don't think there's options in the market. I was really shocked they didn't move for Klopp in the summer when they had the chance. They moved for Benitez instead. I think that was a poor decision.
Do you think the assumption would have been that Klopp wasn't a Real Madrid-esque manager and he was almost... He just doesn't fulfil much of what Perez wants in a manager, which is basically someone who's not not going to talk, first of all, and not going to say things until he's gone.
And also, Klopp, it's just not in his DNA to go there and just sort of using the apparatus that are immediately there, win a load of tournaments, then leave. Do you know what I mean?
But
he wants to bring in a dynasty and a project.
To be fair to him, that's actually what Real Madrid want, isn't it? They want something that looks like a dynasty.
Just don't know it yet.
They want but they do. The whole point of the Galactico program was to bring one young guy through, one massive.
What was the word for the young guy? I can't remember. It was one Galactico.
Young guy.
We'll let you know. You can Google that.
New tab.
Alt, tab, drag to a new window.
Or Command T if you're on a Mac. I think still, though, that Benitez will still fit that in if he's allowed time, because he did that essentially at Liverpool, and it's paying dividends later on.
It's similar to Chelsea in England, isn't it? Ideally, they protest that they want to put in a dynasty, but ultimately, the short-termism, the knee-jerk nature of the institution there just won't allow it.
Contrast that with what Barcelona did at the weekend.
Yeah. But let's not forget when Enrique first took over, there was serious problems for his first 6 months in charge. There was talk of him falling out of Messi, that Messi was going to get him sacked. I remember that sort of chat. How quickly he's turned it round, won a treble, and then probably look like they're going to walk the league again this year.
You think he's pretty bulletproof after winning the treble. Also, I mean, Luis Suarez. I mean, they scored so many goals without Lionel Messi. And it's just come on for Rakitic in that game. They actually haven't conceded a goal in nearly a month now in all competitions.
Offense is defense, essentially, with this side. They stretch the other team out and they can't.
Yeah, I mean, Neymar's just absolutely fabulous. He's so good on the ball, bringing players into the game.
And Iniesta as well, that goal.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the last time he scored was actually at the Santiago Bernabeu, and it was just almost, it sort of encapsulated the match, didn't it? The amount of time they had to make those passes, and what a beautiful ending.
It was lovely. Number 2 here, Leicester City. And they're sticking around at the top.
They won't go away, will they?
No.
But then it was a fantastic fixture for them away at Newcastle. It seems like a fantastic place to play at the moment. Sorry to say to the Newcastle fans.
Just changing midfield, Steve, and things will work out.
I think Jamie Vardy now is at 10. He's equal, but he surpassed the record in one single season, hasn't he? But now he's equal on Ruud van Nistelrooy's season, which is spread across a late part of one season and the start of another one.
It's horrible to think. I think Van Nistelrooy and Vardy in the same sentence. It just doesn't sit well.
Why? That's what? Because Vardy's unfashionable. Why?
Not because he's unfashionable. I just think
he deserves it less.
Ruud's possibly one of the greatest strikers in the history of.
He is, but he still scored the same amount of goals. It's the same. It's the same. Right. In fact, it's superior in one sense because he's done it in one season.
And if anything, they're playing nicer football, so I don't know what your problem is.
He's been fantastic.
Are you not into the Vardy story?
I love. He's done fantastically. It's obviously an
past
incredible
the Vardy
story, but.
Are you there with a Virgin Colada on the side of Jamie Vardy's party?
He's not rude. He's not rude.
You're right, he's not rude, but at the same time, there's its own little bit of magic.
Oh, massive magic.
Yeah. And Ruud van Nistelrooy, he was a classic world-class striker, but he was a poacher. Do you know what I mean? He was a scruffy forward himself.
But I always feel like poacher misserves Ruud van Nistelrooy. Because, well, yeah, in a way, but I also feel like he was so much more than a poacher's like Pippo Inzaghi or something like that. Yeah. But it also sort of implies that the goals you score are not constructed. It's almost chance that you score them.
Yes.
And it wasn't that way for Pippo or for...
That's why I didn't mean it like that, but it's in the terms of they may be spectacular in their structure, and maybe that's belied by the way he takes them, but he's the one who'll get an inch ahead of someone in the 6-yard box, he'll get a toe poke, he'll get a knee on something,
that's what I don't think Vardy's like that. Some of his goals are fantastic.
He's pure instinct as well, isn't he? It's a real athleticism.
Can I say though, I actually feel like Vardy within this side and within the system really benefits from starting, because even when Vardy goes off, I still feel like Leicester look like just as much of a threat without Vardy.
Yeah, Ranieri's got him playing fantastic.
Well, this is it. How much do you think credit is deserved to Ranieri at the moment?
Yeah, massive.
A lot of it. Massive. And then, 5% Nigel Pearson.
I think he.
We need to settle this once and for all, Laurence,
Fight.
because it won't go away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how much is it?
Nigel never leaves. All right.
How much is it? How much do you give it to credit to Nigel Pearson, and how much to Ranieri? How much has Ranieri done?
I think he's done 100% because this team is playing different football to the football they were playing under Nigel Pearson.
And there haven't been massive transformations from that Pearson team. I mean, you look at it, Huth potentially in there. He had Mahrez was at the club. He brought him through.
Yes.
Vardy was at the club. I remember Mahrez wasn't starting all the time last season. He was kind of a 60-40
Fringe.
man, a bit of a fringe
They were
player.
struggling to stay up at that point, weren't they? He's the kind of player where when you're struggling to stay up, you don't want those mercurial types.
But it's also, but it is worth mentioning, a lot of the Leicester City statistics have followed on from last season. They've almost kept up the form through the summer, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what Ranieri's done. He's just built on the back of a really, really strong final 3 months of the season from Pearson. He's come in over the summer and built on it and changed it slightly, moved Mahrez further forward, put Vardy into a more attacking position. I think it's just all kind of the perfect storm.
Manchester United are leading the pack.
Well, they're in the leading pack, is that correct?
But they're building on that solid defence.
Yeah, I mean, Van Gaal, typically everywhere he's been, seems to be able to build a solid defence or foundation for 5 year later kind of plan where a manager comes in, follows him, does very well. Obviously, everybody seems to think it's going to be Giggsy who steps into his shoes once he's done. Whether it's not, I'm not sure he's ready. But that solid foundation that he's setting, I mean, 2 years ago, how many of us would have said that Chris Smalling would have been potentially one of the best defenders in Europe at the moment?
We had a really interesting chat in the office, I think, because I think it was you that said Louis van Gaal will be remembered as a great manager at Manchester United without winning a trophy, simply because of the cycle that he's taken over.
Well, I mean, look, we don't play fantastic football, Man United, at the moment, but
That's on the badges, isn't it? Right?
What is hard to say is that there's probably the best defence in the league without having any superstar defenders in it. I mean, you look at Smalling. A year ago, he was dead in the water when he got sent off at Man City. Around about now, Daley Blind comes in. He's a left-back, defensive midfielder, and a centre-back. 5'10", playing as a centre-back in the Prem. How many other players could do it? Not many. Shaw's broken his leg, the first choice left-back. Darmian's gone off colour, so Ashley Young's at right back. You've got a defence of Ashley Young, Chris Smalling, Blint and Rojo, and it's the best defence in the league. I mean, that is testament to
David De Gea as well.
Well, and also Morgan Schneiderlin going about some of his fantastic work very quietly.
I suppose it really is worth mentioning David De Gea at this point as well, isn't it? Because earlier on in the season there were questions over whether he'd start a Manchester United game again.
Yeah,
it's amazing to see goalkeepers, especially a late teenage goalkeeper, when he come into Manchester United, and you saw all the talent was there. It was just all the things that you could learn.
The physicality,
really, the physicality, and there was some real. He would like shine in spectacular moments, but it was the commanding presence of the air and all that sort of thing. And to be fair to the Manchester United fans, they always stuck with him, especially when he kind of wanted to leave, I think, in the summer as well, or might have been going to. And it's another testament to his mentality that he's got down and he's playing as well as he is, with the record that Joe speaks of. Another fantastic save against Watford. It was that we've just come to accept as the standard now.
It just happens, doesn't it? You think about him and Neuer being the best in the world, very sort of even level. Neuer probably more physical and De Gea more
Keylor Navas just after that.
Intricate. Yeah, Keylor Navas very close, but not quite at that level. I think that De Gea seems to be able to produce 2 match-winning saves for United every week, which maybe because Neuer doesn't get tested. That you can't say the same, but
what's he worth? Is he worth
who, De Gea?
15 points a season?
Let's talk big money.
I mean, he's worth an incredible amount of points. How many points he already?
How many has he won?
He's probably 15 points.
The John Terry scale, isn't it? He says Czech's worth 12. So then how many?
I'd say he's worth
a
similar sort of level, around about 12 points a season. And they're big saves as well. That the save going down to his right that takes the deflection off Smalling. That's a brilliant reaction save. I mean, that's where your matches are won.
Let's talk about the development of quite a few of the young players at Manchester United, though. Depay and obviously Lingard as well. Both those guys starting the match on the weekend. And obviously Depay has been somewhat... I don't think he's been publicly humiliated. I think the press have tried to paint it that way.
They've been after him,
But Van Gaal, I think, behind the scenes has actually been a bit more tentative than people have painted it almost. He's just been very honest and direct in his answers, but I think behind the scenes he's been saying, look, you will come back, etc., etc.
Yeah, it was always going to be very hard for Depay to come in. Everybody immediately went, oh, look, it's the new Ronaldo. How do you live up to the Ronaldo billing? It's almost impoble. I think people forget when Ronaldo...
He's got the 7 shirts that he wanted himself. So he hasn't shied away from it.
I think which is credit, but I think people forget that when Ronaldo first joined the club, he was nowhere near the finished article. There was a lot left. Yeah, exactly. There was a lot left to his game that, in a similar way to Depay, I don't want to put him in the same picture, but they tried to do a bit too much on the ball sometimes. Not that their ego got the better of them, but I think Depay, especially sometimes when he cuts in from the left, he looks He looks a little bit like he's still in the Eredivisie and he thinks he can beat a goalkeeper in 40 yards.
Juventus now.
Yeah, Juve.
Now, I don't know if this point's right because they played AC Milan and they suck right now.
Yeah, they do. I think, but Juventus, I think that's their third win in a row now, and they're basically starting to stalk the Scudetto, having been in sort of Chelsea levels of kind of obscurity down at the wrong end. The wrong quarter of the of Serie A. It's an incredibly open Serie A, and I really hope for Serie A's sake that it is an exciting and is a multi-team kind of title race. You've got Napoli haven't lost since August. Inter Milan are top with 30 points. Roma is still thereabouts, and Fiorentina. And I just hope long may that continue for Serie A's sake, because it's really important that
a lot's changed there, hasn't it?
A lot's changed for Juventus. You look at that team that hit the Champions League final last season, and it's had its whole spine ripped out, really, isn't it? With Tevez has gone to Argentina, you've got Vidal's gone to Bayern Munich, Pirlo's gone to America. It's a big, and then you bring in the likes of Khedira, and he's had a serious injury, been out for 4 months. Marquisio's had an injury. Then you look at that midfield, and you're suddenly very, very lightweight compared to what you were last season. Right. So it's not really a surprise that they've died off in the way they have. But maybe now you see Marquisio come back when Khedira starts to get his fitness levels back up. You might see him.
These things are happening now. You saw sort of Pogba having goes from range and things like that, didn't you?
I mean, in fact, brilliant bit of skill for the first goal. I think it was Pogba. He did. Kicked it up and chipped over the defenders.
And Dybala is part of the new generation as well.
He is,
mentioned that they signed from Palermo, was it?
It was Palermo.
I still think that it's a decent performance, but it's against AC Milan, who are just...
What do you think's going wrong with
them? They're diabolical right now. Well, they've lost the biggest bit of investment that the club had in the president, and obviously they lost a lot of big players.
Yeah.
Barca's been fantastic for him. It's a great signing.
He sucked at the weekend.
He did, but
he looked very isolated. Well, it wasn't. He looked isolated. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he hasn't been great for the last couple of games, but he's still had a very good start to his.
But what a waste! Do you not feel that that's such a waste of a striker that should have gone to should have maybe stayed at a side, or should have gone to a team where he was going to be much better utilised?
I think there were still questions though. He was never. There was nobody saying, "Look, this is Carlos Bacca, and he is the next Diego Costa sort of level," where he would go to where he took Atletico Madrid in Costa's case up to that next level, like Falcao had done before him. Back did the same, back-to-back Europa Leagues with back-to-back of Europa Leagues with Sevilla, but nobody was there going, "Look, it's Carlos Bacca, bloody hell!" I know Liverpool were linked with him. There was tender links to Man United, but there was nobody going, "God, Chelsea are after him, Madrid are after him, Barca are after him," like they were to Costa. So I
still wonder, would you? I suppose Sevilla wanted the money, right? But you still think it's. I'm not saying. I'm saying I feel like it's a waste because it's at a club where they're not making the most of.
Well, what's really interesting is both the Milan clubs had basically years to write off last year, didn't they? I think Inter Milan were 8th, and I think AC Milan were there or thereabouts as well. What's gone right at Inter Milan is really, really interesting because they've kept their same manager.
And they spent a lot of money there, didn't they? They spent a lot of money on the likes of Kondogbia.
For Inter Milan, you almost feel like it's helped them a little bit that AC have been so bad and almost proven that the Inter Milan way was the better way to go than the AC Milan incredible. I mean, even if you just go in the dressing rooms, Inter Milan's, at least the last time we were there, was benches. AC Milan's is a load of really fancy chairs, players' names above things. Two different cultures at the clubs. Liverpool against Man City, or should I say Man City against Liverpool, because Liverpool were hosted by them. But it looked more like Liverpool at home, didn't it, Patrick?
Well,
although actually, it's worth making the point that Liverpool can play this kind of football away from home because of the kind of football that City play at home.
Well, he's getting some huge scalps now, isn't he? Klopp away from home, obviously, Stamford Bridge, and you can now add the Etihad.
And some huge scalps.
I think it might have been the same team that lined up against Chelsea. Maybe a couple
roughly
changes,
slightly different shape.
I think the point is. I think the point is Benteke wasn't starting. Is a thought, and it was Firmino. I thought was really impressive as well.
Firmino was fantastic, and you could tell that the international break had done a lot for the combination of those two.
Definitely, they didn't go away, did they? They stayed at. They stayed at Melwood, exactly. And then I think you could see some of the link playing between the lines, but it's just face it, City with
defensively,
they
were sort of.
I mean, why did he drop Otamendi? Was Otamendi unfit, or that's a horrible decision if he's dropped him?
He didn't start any of the players that travelled, and you would also say that combination, the back two, were actually pretty good towards the tail end of last season. So maybe we're questioning that, but at the same time, there are reasons why he would start.
Mangala had a shocker. You know, it wasn't just the own goal.
He's prone to that.
He was letting the ball go across, going crossing very easily.
He was good at the start of the season though, when he was partnered by strong defence. You look at Di Michaelis, really a Man City level defender anymore? I'm not sure.
He was at the end of last season though, and you'd imagine
he is, but then Otamendi comes in, and Otamendi's been fantastic.
Sanya had maybe one of the worst games
Sanya was
ever had.
exceptionally poor. But I think that was largely due to Liverpool pressing high, and Coutinho really was on him like a dog to a bone all the time, and he had no pressure, no time on the ball at all.
And Emre Can very impressive in midfield as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic link play. Because I've criticised him on the show before for being a bit immobile going forward, but around the edge of the box on the weekend, he was fantastic.
He was everywhere.
I mean, he's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he was at the foot of the midfield. He was top of the midfield.
Really powerful player as well.
Yeah, he is a very, very powerful runner.
He's early 20s. I think he's 21, 22 now, isn't he?
Although massively helped by the fact Yaya decided to not show up, hooked at half time. But that's standard old Yaya, isn't it? We look at him from a season ago when everybody was going, can he play in the midfield too? No, he can't. Pellegrini puts him in the midfield too, again, against a team that's obviously going to be high energy, obviously going to be high pressure for whole 90 minutes. Can he handle it? No. Why is he put him in that team? I think that's again poor selection from Pellegrini.
And no Fernandinho in there as well, which you'd say is arguably their best midfielder. Yeah, but you should start the game with two players who are going to be able to counter that. They didn't.
You know that Liverpool are going to... I think Klopp after the game actually said that City didn't know how Liverpool were going to line up, and that really helped in the favour of putting Firmino as almost leading the line, although he dropped deep a lot. I think that really helped them because City didn't know what to expect, didn't know how to line up. They started Yaya Toure in a midfield two against... When Firmino dropped deep, it was almost 4 in there, and it was just a disaster from start to finish for City.
You still know that Liverpool's aggression is going to be at a certain level, though, and you still think, well, they should be given tactics to that. And I suppose the problem for Pellegrini was he didn't really have very many striking options. Had Liverpool maybe come up against City with Bonny, we may have seen a more long ball style against them, like Pep played against Dortmund just a few seasons ago. It almost bypasses what Liverpool do. Well, thanks a lot for watching Football Daily Weekly. It's been great to have you. Joe.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back on, Joe. Really good to have you.
No worries.
The people, they love you.
Great
Anytime.
You got the chat?
Yeah. At minimum.
That is the minimum entry.
Yeah.
And
of course, being able to talk. Hi.
Pat chat over here.
The old holding midfielder.
I've got a pat chat.
Yeah, the old the water carrier.
Thanks a lot, you guys, for watching. And we'll see you again next week on Football Daily Weekly.
Day Shumps.